Okay, everybody, you're very welcome and thanks for taking the time to attend today's Erasmus pre-departure readiness briefing. So this is an online briefing to prepare you for your Erasmus mobility, which will be happening in semester 2. So my name is Kim O'Flynn Kelly. I'm the Erasmus executive and I work in the international office on incoming and outgoing student and staff mobilities. And you're all extremely welcome to the presentation today. So it's going to take approximately 40-45 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. There's a lot of very dry information here. I apologize in advance. It's not easy to make this hilariously sort of interesting or entertaining, but the information is really important. So I would ask that you bear with me, and we'll talk through this. As I say, we will have a Q&A session at the end, and all of the information will be available on slides on our website. And this actual session is being recorded and will also be available on the website. So if you need to refer back, you'll be able to do so at any stage. So what are we going to cover today? So we're going to cover the University Erasmus Office, who we are, and our contact details, the necessary documentation that you need for your Erasmus mobility, how to complete and submit the Erasmus grant application form. So that's the really important form that we're going to refer to continually throughout today's presentation. A discussion and information regarding the Erasmus grant agreement and the rates that you will be paid. Academic preparation for your mobility. So this will focus on the learning agreement. OLS, which is online linguistic support. So it's additional language support. Insurance and visas, emotional readiness, and as I said, then there'll be a Q&A session at the end. Okay, so who are we? So in the Erasmus office, there's myself and Jody. So Jody Blumenfeld, who is here presenting with me today. Most of you will already know Jody. So she's a really important person that processes all of your nominations, learning agreements, and most importantly of all, your grants. So the grant application and the grant payments. So yeah, I'm sure you've already been in contact with Jody multiple times. We are both located here in this wonderful salubrious prefab building at the back of security, which is on the Distillery Road entrance to the university. So we work on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're available by email. The email address is here, or you can drop in if you have a specific query that we can help with. So always contactable. So a little bit about Erasmus past and present. So Erasmus is the European Community Action Scheme for the mobility of university students. And as I'm sure you know, it's named after the philosopher, theologian and humanist Erasmus from medieval times. It's the European Union's flagship mobility programme in education, and was established in 1987 with the University of Galway amongst the first universities to be involved. It's got 4 main flagship areas: mobility, which you're now involved in, inclusion and diversity, which kind of permeates every aspect of Erasmus, digital mobility, and sustainability. So I don't think we need to tell you guys, but behind everything we do is the belief that traveling is still the most intense mode of learning. And when you're wondering what's in it for you, we can assure you of the opportunity to create amazing memories, make international friends, broaden your horizons. You know, we don't need to set it, explore new foods, grow as a person, gain valuable skills, and really at the end of the day, improve your employability. So I think we have survey results reporting that 80% of employers will opt to employ a student who has spent time either studying or living abroad. So it really adds an extra dimension to you as a person, as an employee. And I personally went on it in one of the first years it was run, and I can tell you it's one of the best times of your life. So back to the documentation. So Erasmus is quite heavy on documentation. I understand that. It's an EU-run program. They're giving away a significant amount of money and funds, and this all has to be documented. So from your perspective, there are 2 critical forms that we're now going to discuss. That's the grant application form and the grant agreement. Now, all of this information is contained in the Erasmus Outgoing Handbook, which is on our university Erasmus Outgoing Student website. So everything we're going to talk about and a little more beside is contained in the handbook on our website. So the Erasmus grant application form will be available via a web link that you'll receive from Jody by email. We ask that you complete and submit this by November the 9th. Now, I'm going to mention that date a couple of times in this presentation because it is a critical date. You need to get your application for your Erasmus grant to Jody by November the 9th. Okay, so once that's received and once any corrections that are necessary have been rectified, Jody will be in contact with you to inform you and to ask you to inform you about the grant agreement. So I'll come to the grant agreement in a couple of slides. So that would be basically the contract regarding your grant. When completing all documentation, please remember that the information that you give us is used to create our databases and our mailing list. So just pay particular attention, please, to your email addresses and facts and figures. So for your bank account, if you can just make sure that your bank account and sort code details are correct, that you have given the bank account that you expect to receive the grant into. Okay, some people have multiple accounts, so just be sure that we're all on the same page about your bank account and sort code details. In terms of your, in terms of the grant application form, please use your name as it appears on your passport. First name is usually sufficient unless you use two. If you have both an Irish and an English name, just decide which one you're going to go with and stick with it for all the paperwork. Obviously, when asked for a home address, use your permanent address, and the dates of your mobility should be selected using the calendar provided. So we strongly suggest that you gather all critical information before you start. So as I mentioned, your bank account and sort code details, the dates of your study visit, using the calendar that is tied to the application form, and just confirm the dates of your study visit. So you might need to consult your host university website if necessary. So when submitting your grant application form, it needs to be submitted through your University of Galway Office 365 account. Okay, so don't try and download it and save it and email it to Jody. Submit through your University 365 account. Only complete the form once. And when you complete and submit the form, you'll receive an email like this here below, confirming receipt and providing further information. So it's basically, we hereby confirm receipt of your online application. Please be sure to have a read of the online handbook, etc. So once again, just bring to your attention that this form needs to be submitted to Jody by the 9th of November. And we get this question after every presentation and several times a month during the year. What happens if I miss the deadline? If you miss the deadline, you cannot be considered for an Erasmus grant. So there are, I'm really sorry, no exceptions to this. Our hands are tied. It's an EU date and we can't move outside of this deadline. So you may be approved to study abroad as a zero grant student. So you can go on your mobility, you just won't get funding for it. And yes, we are sorry, but no, we cannot consider late applications. So the Erasmus grant agreement, this is basically your financial contract, as I referred to before. You will be asked to insert your bank details on page 1 and your insurance details on page 3. So if you don't have insurance, we'll come to that in a moment, your grant agreement is deemed void. So bank details are necessary to pay you, insurance details are necessary to complete the contract. You need to sign, date and return the grant agreement to Outgoing Erasmus at universityofgalway.ie. And we recommend that you do that really promptly in order to receive your Erasmus grant in a timely manner. So speaking of timely manner, your grant will not be paid within the first month. So please just factor that into your expectations. when starting your mobility. So now the important bits, the Erasmus grant, how much and when. So the current rates for, this should say 23-24, are €385 per month for Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden and Liechtenstein, and 330 per month for all other countries. So there is an additional grant of €250 available from the EU for financially disadvantaged students. And this is called SISI. And this will be issued and allocated based on your SUSI maintenance grant eligibility. So basically, if you're eligible for a full SUSI grant, and we're not talking partial, we're talking if you're eligible for full SUSI grant rates, then you will automatically receive an additional €250 called a SISI payment on top of your SUSI payment. The main grant instalment is paid at the beginning of the study period. And this is, as I said, about four to 6 weeks in to your mobility. And the remainder of the grant will be paid after the study period, provided all of the necessary paperwork has been submitted. So, as I mentioned, the Erasmus grant is a financial contract. And as with any contract, a breach of contract can occur. So a breach of your Erasmus grant contract occurs when you fail to complete the agreed study program, if you fail to complete a minimum of 2 months abroad. So if you return home without completing the agreed study period, but you have completed 2 months abroad, you will be asked to return a proportion of the grant. Returning home without completing your international year, where applicable, also has implications for your final degree and your fees. Obviously, you'll be liable for repeat fees with the University of Galway. So academic preparation. So obviously the grant, we've discussed the grant, and that's the financial side of the house. Now we need to talk about you actually commencing your academic mobility. So you will, we hope, or will be in the process of applying to your host university for your mobility. This already may be complete. If not, we ask that you check the application deadline and adhere to it. In terms of accommodation, I think we'll agree that there's an accommodation crisis, dare I say, across Europe. So please arrange your accommodation in a timely manner. If your university does have on-campus accommodation, we strongly recommend that you look into the deadlines for applying for same and start down that road. Your host university may well require a preliminary learning agreement to support your application. You will need to prepare this with your University of Galway academic coordinator to identify the courses that you want to take and that you will be approved to take, and your ECTS requirements. So this is really important because obviously if your learning agreement isn't validated by the university, then your mobility will not result in ECTS being awarded and will be null and void. So a list of academic coordinators is available at the back of the Erasmus handbook, which again is on the University of Galway Erasmus outgoing student site. Language students are advised to take an OLS assessment before departure. Completed tests give access to free online language course and supports, and that is available here. And again, all this information will be available on slides and on our website. So the learning agreement. So this really is the academic contract for your Erasmus studies. It states the agreed courses you'll take, the ECTS credits you'll obtain, and how your studies will be recognised by the University of Galway. So this needs to be signed off and approved by your academic coordinators at both the University of Galway and the host university. Your University of Galway coordinator, so your home academic coordinator, can help you to identify the correct academic coordinator at your host university. And the section on the learning agreement called mobility period is for changes to your course choice. So this can happen if there's a conflict in terms of timetables, or just basically sometimes some of the modules that you have envisaged taking and agreed with your academic coordinator may no longer be available, may be fully subscribed. So of course, when you get to your host university, you may need to make some changes to your learning agreement, and this is perfectly fine within the designated mobility period, but we do ask that all changes are approved by your home university academic coordinator before you proceed. So this is the learning agreement in its original format. It is available at www.learning-agreement.eu. All information about this and how to complete this is contained in the Erasmus Outgoing Handbook, in particular pages 14 to 15. So please have a good read of it before you start filling it out. If you have queries, Jodie's always available, but first and foremost, try and go to your academic coordinator, who should be able to help with learning agreement issues. And if not, myself or Jodie are always available. And if you have any queries, our website, universityofgalway.ie/Erasmus programme, outgoing students, has further information. So insurance. So as I mentioned, your Erasmus grant is only valid if you have the appropriate insurance coverage. Private travel insurance is mandatory as part of the Erasmus grant agreement. If you have an existing health policy or if you're covered under your parents' policy, please check that you are covered for the following. So that you have enough personal liability coverage, and we'll come to the terms that are on our website. You need to be covered for medical expenses, repatriation, and lost or stolen possessions and disruption to travel plans. So as a university, we've detailed the minimum level of coverage that you need to have, and providers of insurance that if you don't have your own insurance that you can contact. And these are all detailed on the universityofgalway.ie Erasmus programme /outgoing students /health insurance. You must hold an EHIC, that's the European Health Insurance Card, if eligible. It's a really handy card to have. For further details, just look it up, www.ehic. So, will you need a visa for your study visits? Well, if you're not an EU citizen, you may need a visa for studies in your destination country. So look it up. Again, do a Google search or check with your destination country's embassy in Ireland. And obviously, this also applies to UK citizens who only have a British passport. We suggest that you are prepared for your mobility, do some research on your host university in the city, country where you'll be living. So you can look up your host university website. We have some reports available online from our former students, or you can go and invest or download a travel guidebook for the region that you will be visiting. We urge you to download the Erasmus Plus app, and also recommend that you visit www.justlanded.com. In particular, the section on culture has a lot of very helpful information. We require you, it's not mandatory, but we strongly suggest that you register with the Department of Foreign Affairs, where you can read advice on country-specific local laws, safety, and so on and so forth. We ask that you register your destination with the DFA, so that should there be any emergency, you can be easily contacted and traced. Note the contact details of the Irish Embassy or Consulate in your host country, because they're basically extremely helpful if there's any emergency. So just have them on your phone so that you can contact them quickly if necessary. So some items for your to-do list. So arrange your European health insurance card if you're eligible, and your travel insurance. Make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after your final return. If you don't have an online bank account, set one up. If you don't have an ISIC, International Student Card, strongly recommend that you get one. Research accommodation in your destination city or town. I would put that as probably top priority. And join our Facebook group, University of Galway Outgoing Erasmus 2023-24. And after all of that, what we'll send you is a letter of nomination from the University of Galway confirming your Erasmus student status, your grant agreement, pending successful receipt of your grant application form, a copy of the Erasmus Student Charter, the Erasmus timeline, and a safety advice sheet. For students with disabilities, we recommend that you contact the disability service on site. Students with disabilities are eligible for additional funding where necessary. So if you have a specific disability that requires additional funds in order to allow your mobility to proceed, you may be able to apply and receive an exceptional special needs grant. So students who are registered with the disability service should inform the disability officer that you're going to work abroad, just so they know where you are and they can help in any way possible. And we do ask that you inform your host university about your disability and just liaise with them about your support requirements. So even if you inform our disability service here, we will not contact your host university, as that's something basically you need to do and it's outside GDPR. So strongly ask that you just let them know and how they can help you in any way. So emotional readiness. So wonderful experience and all as Erasmus is, any of us may suffer from homesickness and culture shock. So what is culture shock? So it's basically the impact of moving from a familiar culture to one that is unfamiliar, and it can be felt or anybody is liable to homesickness or culture shock. People who are seasoned travelers or who have already lived abroad, it can happen, any of us. It can last a couple of weeks, a couple of months. And there's of course there's ways around it, and it is guaranteed that 95% of those who do experience homesickness are the very people who really don't want to return home after their mobility. So symptoms vary, but can include boredom, withdrawal, just wanting to stay in your room, not really wanting to engage with your host nationals, sleeping a lot, tiring easily, irritation about delays or just seemingly minor frustrations, anxiety about how to do things, like, navigate the public transport system or so on and so forth. So, anything that basically is not normally things that irk you, that don't normally irk you or aren't part of your makeup, just perhaps just have a look at them and see them for what they are. What we recommend as an antidote to culture shock or homesickness is just, before you leave, do a question and answer session with some close and trusted peers. Just kind of talk about possible situations you may encounter, how you're going to deal with them. Bring some sort of home comforts with you, non-perishables, comfy blanket, photos. Perhaps you can look, if you're into sports or into any sort of organizations, you can look up your destination to see if any if there's branches or any thing that you can get involved in your host city. So if problems do arise and you just feel that they're either getting bigger, or after a month or 6 weeks they don't seem to be abating, we recommend that you contact either ourselves, your academic coordinator, or the University of Galway Counselling Service. So again, there's ways of self-soothing and trying to just come to terms with your situation. But if it's at any way feeling that you can't manage, or you're just not getting on top of it, please don't leave it too long. Contact ourselves, your academic coordinator, or the University of Galway Counselling Service. We just remind you to contact your family or support group on a regular basis, and just remember that you're an ambassador for your country and your university. So again, just in case people didn't hear me, the grant application date is November the 9th at 12 midnight. So lots of time, but please don't leave it till the last day. And once again, if your grant application is not received on time, no grant. So with all of that, we would like to wish you all a wonderful study abroad experience. Again, I think it would be one of the best times in your lives. We look forward to hearing all about it. When you return, we'd love if you would write us a written testimonial, or perhaps contact us and be involved in a video for our website. But until then, we wish you all the best, and thank you for your time today. So I'm going to hand over to the floor and ask if you have any questions. For those that don't feel comfortable voicing any questions now, you can always email us separately. We also, I think, have a facility in this webinar that you could just type in a question.
Possibly. I hope the chat's working. If it is working, you can just type in a question and I can answer it here. Oh, we've got one. Let me see. When will the email with the grant application form be sent? I'm going to send that really, really soon, either today or tomorrow. And one thing I want to say about the online grant application, don't stress about it. It's a really simple form. It's an online form. I'll send you the link. You click on the link, and it's consists of something like 30 questions, where it's what's your name, what's your date of birth, where are you going on Erasmus, what's the start date, what's your end date, what's your degree program, what's your address, and most importantly, what is it asks for your banking information, so I have that, and that's really important so you can get paid. So it's a really simple form. There's no essay questions or long form answers, so you could probably complete the online grant application form in about 10 minutes. So it's really simple. So please don't stress out about that. And there's no reason why, once you receive the link from me, that you can't just fill it out and have it submitted by the 9th of November. So that's the first question. Let me see. Must you have your EU health card and insurance arranged by the November 9th deadline? No, you need to have your insurance arranged before you leave on Erasmus. So not by November 9th, but after you submit the online grant application form, I'm going to send you the grant agreement, and you have to enter your insurance details into the grant agreement. And then the grant agreement has to be sent to me before you leave. And I'll send you an email with all this information. So you don't need that sorted by the 9th of November, but you do need to have all of your information on insurance sorted before you leave on Erasmus. Is there a way to see testimonials from past Erasmus students? We do have some in our online handbook. I believe at the beginning of the handbook, there are some written testimonials. If not, I might be able to send you some. So please send me an email if you can't see any in the handbook. And sometimes I think it's in the study visit handbook, but it's in the traineeship handbook. So send me an email if you don't see any, because I'd be happy to send you some. Are you okay, Kib, if I just keep reading through these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm just replying. I'm just typing to some. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've already filled out the learning agreement, but I haven't filled out the courses correctly. Can I amend it, or will I have to send it in again? If it's the online learning agreement, it can be a little finicky with changes. Like I think with the OLA, if you've signed it, then it can't be edited until your coordinator in Galway, and your coordinator at your host university have signed it, or they've rejected it. So once it's been signed by all 3 people, then you can edit it. Otherwise, you need to just delete it and start from scratch. But if you're having issues with that, I know that the OLA has some tech support, and there's an email that you could send a query to about editing it. So but I think that, yeah, it either needs to be signed by all 3 people or rejected in order for it to be edited, or not signed by anyone, and then you can edit it. Are we able to apply for a job abroad? Yeah, there are no restrictions. So if you are on Erasmus doing a study visit, say you're in France, and you're taking courses at the University of Rennes, you can definitely, yeah, you can apply for a job and you could work. Just be careful that, you know, you're still able to follow your modules and do well in your courses. Like don't take a job where it infringes on your time to study. But yeah, there's no restrictions in terms of working abroad, as long as you are eligible to do so in terms of citizenship and work visas and permissions and all that. Someone just says thank you, so you're welcome. If the host university has their own version of the learning agreement, should we use it, or the University of Galway one? I don't think it really matters. I think you can use the host university one. It's just the academic agreement between you and your coordinators that says, okay, these are the modules that I'm going to be taking. This is the number of ECTS I'll be earning and earning towards my degree program here in Galway. So as long as your coordinators are happy with it and sign it, then I don't think it really matters which version you use. I think there are some host universities that require you to use their version. So that's fine. As long as your coordinators have approved it, it's okay. Do you have to have private health insurance, or can you just have European EHIC and travel insurance? If your travel insurance is a private insurance policy, that's fine, but it is a University of Galway policy that all students have to purchase private insurance that covers you for the potential eventualities that Kim listed, and that's on our website. What else? What happens if you fail a module abroad? Oh, you're answering that, Kim? Do you want to?
Well, I'm just basically saying that you can reset the module. All of our mobilities are on a pass-fail basis. So as long as you achieve the required amount of ECTS, failing one particular module is not a disaster in itself.
And there are other, I think some students have spoken with their coordinators here in Galway, and sometimes there's always the possibility to do like makeup work through your coordinator. So that's something that you need to talk with your academic coordinator about. We can't really say much else. Sorry, just to double check, you won't need to submit your grant agreement until like a week or so before you leave. Try to send me your grant agreement soon after I send it to you. It does need to be sent to me before you leave, but if it doesn't get sent to me till a week or so before you leave, that is fine. But sometimes if you leave it too late, it can be forgotten, and then I have to chase you for it, and that's not fun for either of us. Do you get the grant in one lump sum or monthly? The grant payment is split in 2 separate payments. So your Erasmus grant, you get the most, about 80% of it at the beginning of your mobility. Once you've arrived at your host university, once you've sent me a signed and completed grant agreement, and there's one more piece of paperwork called the certificate of arrival, and I'll be sending that to you, and I'll send you an email with information about that. But once you arrive at your host university, you send them, or you go to the international office there, you get them to just fill out a quick little 1-page form that says, yes, so-and-so has arrived, and they'll be registered at our university between these dates. Once I get that back, then we can process your first grant payment. And the first grant payment is about 80% of your total Erasmus grant award. And then you get the final 20% at the end, after you've finished and sent me another document called the certificate of attendance. So it's usually in 2 payments. Is there a certain amount of accommodation reserved for semester 2 Erasmus students?
Just answering that. So I'm saying you'll have the same access to university accommodation where applicable, where they have on-campus accommodation as other international students, so apply early.
Someone's asking about the European student identifier number. I have a feeling that's not something that we provide. I think you have to apply for it. I'm not sure if it's associated with the Erasmus Student Network. I know I've answered this question before. If you send me an email about it, I might be able to find previous emails that I've sent and what I know about it, but it's not something that we provide to students. It's something separate. If I've completed my learning agreement, but it hasn't been accepted by the faculty international officer, am I at risk of missing the deadline? Our office doesn't set a deadline for the learning agreement, because the learning agreement is an academic document. And so that's really between you, your program coordinator here in Galway, and whoever your coordinator is at your host university. So if there's a deadline set, it's a deadline set by one of them, and they'll be aware of the deadline. You might want to send them an email and just say, hey, I've completed my learning agreement and it's still awaiting a signature, and just remind them that if there is a deadline, that you need that signed by a certain date. When is the learning agreement due, and where do we send it? No worries. Again, the learning agreement is a contract between you and your academic coordinators. So this is something you need to ask them. We don't have a deadline for the learning agreement. So speak to your academic coordinators about when they expect to have that ready for them to look over and sign. Once we get the okay on course selection from coordinator, do we apply for host universities by ourselves, or do we do it through GLO? Once all of your host universities at this point, there may be a few where their nomination deadline hasn't passed yet, but your program coordinator will have sent your nomination information to your host university. And once they've received that information, your host university will get in touch with you directly about their application procedure. Each host university has a different application deadline and a different procedure and different documents that they need. The best thing is just be a bit proactive. Go to your university's website, look for their international office, or just do a Google search, say like University of Rennes incoming Erasmus application, and see what they need and when they need it. But you yourself, each student is responsible for applying to their host university by the deadline that the host university has set, and you are responsible for submitting all of the documents that is required by that host university. Do students, oh, Kim, you're answering that one.
Yeah, I'm just saying not usually. I think students usually are seen to benefit from sort of wider learning, and a little bit of a change of scene has had added benefits. So yeah, actually they usually perform really well in their final year after being
Oh,
taught.
great. There's one question about the European health insurance card if you don't have one. If you're eligible for one, you are required to apply for one, so get on that now. If you are not eligible for a European health insurance card, then there's nothing you could do. But we do, again, the university requires that each student has purchased a private insurance policy that covers them. I didn't receive an email with the invite to this meeting, but I'm going on Erasmus. Why is this? I don't know. You should send me an email directly. Email me at outgoingerasmus@universityofgalway.ie. It's possible that your coordinator didn't give me your details, or I might have the wrong email address for you. So send me an email and let me know that you didn't receive an invite to this meeting, and I can follow up on that and find out why. Are all of our learning agreements due at the same time, regardless of the European university we will be attending? Again, we don't require this. It's not our office that requires the learning agreement, but it is something that has to be completed as part of your Erasmus mobility. It depends on your program coordinators, your academic coordinators. So speak to whoever is the program coordinator for your degree program here in Galway. Check with your host university to see if they have a deadline for when they need that. Some students won't have deadlines. They'll just have to have it sorted before they start the mobility. Other host universities will require it by a certain deadline. Are there benefits to getting an Erasmus card? I'm not sure which exactly Erasmus card. Is it the international student card or an Erasmus?
I think they may be getting confused at the Erasmus app that I mentioned.
Oh, maybe. But if you want to send me an email, we can talk about it. Just let me know what card you are referring to. There'll be benefits to.
Somebody has asked about the European student card. Somebody has asked about the international student identification card. And yes, it's really it's very useful to have. It's universally accepted as a form of ID, and it can give you discounts on travel and many other shops. So yeah, I would say definitely, if you don't have it, get it.
Yeah, I had one when I was an undergrad about 85 years ago, and I think I got some discounts with train travel. So it's all, yeah, and again, it's a form of ID, and it could be useful and get you discounts. So, and I don't think does it cost anything to apply for one?
I think a minimal amount, yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
Like 15, 20 euros, something like that.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions that we haven't answered? If there's anything that we've touched on that you're still a little confused about, or something kind of pops into your head within the next few days, or at any time before you leave on Erasmus, or even when you've started your mobility, send us an email. Like, we are always open to student questions. We're always here for you. No question is too small or silly. Do we need the EHIC before November 9th or before we leave? The European Health Card is, well, when you sign your grant agreement, first of all, you're putting in your private travel insurance policy, but you're also signing it with the understanding that you hold a European health insurance card if you're eligible. So that's something you need to have by the time you submit your grant agreement to me, and the grant agreement is what's due before you leave. So you don't need that by November 9th, but you do need it before you leave. And it may take a little bit of time. If you don't have one, it could take a little bit of time to apply and receive it. So you might want to get started on that as soon as you can. And it's a good thing to have. It really is.
Alrighty. So anything else, as Jody said, if you think of something after the fact, just email us or call in at any time. And if you don't know your academic coordinator, I would strongly recommend that you make inquiries as to who is your academic coordinator and start speaking about your learning agreement with them. So again, thanks to you all. Myself and Jody wish you all the best, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's a wonderful opportunity, and just enjoy and be safe. Thank you all. Take care.